Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO Delta Airlines, Ed Bastian, in discussion with Skift Aviation Business Editor, Brian Summers.
Hello, everyone. I should remind you that we're going to be taking questions again on Slido, so please go to the app. And Ed, I should warn you that their questions are actually tougher than mine.
Okay.
So we'll do those in the last few minutes.
We'll save very little time for them then. Hello, everybody.
Ed was here last year. He did a great job. Thanks for coming back. I'm very excited about this.
That's good.
I think I asked you last year a similar question, but just this week, you had a technology outage. I believe it was on Tuesday.
Yep.
Flights were down for about an hour. What happened, and more broadly, why does this happen more often than passengers would like?
Well, technology, as everyone in this room can appreciate, is our lifeblood. And the bigger we get, and the stronger we get, and the more global and scale we have, the more vulnerabilities that we create. And I'd say, while everyone here in this conference wants to hear about the innovation and the apps and the cutting edge new opportunities that the industry is going to find, I'd say the single biggest investment need we still have is in the infrastructure and the durability, the reliability, the resiliency of the backbone. And we've done a fabulous job at that, Delta. We were down technically for 26 minutes, was the length of the ground stop. We recovered quickly. I think we only had a couple of cancellations as a result of that. Interestingly, the stats on the day, on Tuesday, is that we outperformed all our major competitors on that day. We had fewer cancels, fewer delays, a better on-time reliability than anyone else, even with that outage occurring. So I was pretty proud of the team. It was I call it a hiccup as compared to an outage. And certainly we apologize for any customers that were inconvenienced by it, but I was really proud of the team, how quickly they recovered. What happened, there was a network device that went down, and it was showing no signs of distress. So it actually wasn't a technology application issue as much as a physical device issue. We found it quickly and rebooted the system, and we got everybody on their way.
Is this just part of life at an airline? Even if you make the investments in it, the systems will go down at sometimes? You are a 24/7 operation worldwide.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be some vulnerability, but I can tell you it's been the first, significant, I don't even call it significant, it was a relatively small, minor glitch we had in over 6 months. So they're getting smaller, they're getting fewer in number, and if you went back a few years ago and had that outage, I think it probably would have taken us several hours to recover, my sense. Today it was 26 minutes, and next year hopefully there won't be any.
All right, let's talk about the fun technology. You made a big announcement recently. You're going to have the first Biometrics terminal. It's going to be in Atlanta. Why are you doing this, and then how is it going to work?
Well, we're very excited by it, and we thank our partners at the CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, as well as TSA, who's also part of this pilot, to bring biometrics and facial scanning technology to our international customers. If you haven't heard, that by the end of this year, the Atlanta International Terminal, Concourse F, will go all facial recognition for anyone. It's an opt-in program, so people that don't want to opt in for whatever reason don't need to. But it will effectively be paperless. Your credentials, your recognition, whether you go through the screening process, when you board, when you return back to the country, there will be no need to show any documents. We see it's not just more efficient in terms of time saving for our customers, because the line waits coming through international are still a real pinch point in our travel ribbon, which will accelerate the speed through the terminal and the processing. But it's also much more effective. And the initial trials, we've had a 98% hit rate with the facial recognition. So 2% that kick out will be handled manually as they're done today. But I'm excited that at a very early stage, this technology is very promising, and I have no doubt over the next several years that will be our standard.
Okay, so JetBlue is working on something similar. Their president, Joanna Garrity, told me backstage yesterday that the system is least reliable with very old people. Have you heard that as well?
Well, as an old person, I hope they're wrong.
Okay. And you expect customers to want to opt in? I've gotten very used to using my mobile phone. It doesn't really slow me down to get into the club or get on the airplane or whatever it is.
Well, what it'll be is you'll have to present your passport credentials, and they'll have to screen you, and they'll have to go through the screening process as compared to, basically you'll stop and they'll check the facial recognition and on your way. So I think most customers will opt in.
Okay. This is not necessarily a 100% airline audience, which is kind of fun for me. Yesterday, we introduced this group to a fun term when I interviewed Robert Isom. It was D0. Those are flights that leave exactly on time. Mm-hmm. D0 is very important to Delta, so is A0, arrival on time. But you guys have another metric that you love to talk about. It's completion factor. They probably don't know what completion factor is. What is it, and why are you so darn obsessed with it?
Well, completion factor is a measure for how you operated that day. And while all our flights complete, so our completion factor is 100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are cancellations. And our goal at Delta is to eliminate cancellations, and we're doing a pretty darn good job of it. Last year, we had 242 days of the year without a cancellation, system-wide.
Yeah. How many did your competitors have?
Excuse me?
How many did your competitors have last year?
If you were to add all of our main competitors combined in terms of their cancel-free days, we had more than all of them combined. So 242 days last year cancel-free. This year we're on an even better trajectory in terms of what the math will be by the end of the year. But one of the key underlying reasons for that is the improvement that we continue to make in our maintenance, because your maintenance operations are the backbone and the foundation for the reliability of the airline. Last year we had 330 days of the year without a maintenance cancellation. We had 99% reduction in maintenance cancels over a 5-year period. And we're getting to the point where it's pretty hard to eliminate entirely maintenance cancels, but we're getting pretty darn close. So it's the team's doing a great job, and I'm very proud of them. And that's despite, Brian, the critique around Delta sometimes is that we operate some of the more complex, some of the older fleets in the industry. It shows when you have the best people what you can do.
Okay. We talked about this last year also on stage. You promised this group that your Wi-Fi was going to get a lot better. Has that happened? I know you had some pretty well publicized issues with GoGo in the past year. They didn't deliver you the product that you wanted.
Yeah, they're getting much better. I still don't call them GoGo. I still call them SlowGo.
SlowGo. I think last year was no-go, wasn't it?
So from the no-go to SlowGo, and by next year we'll be back to GoGo. It's just a joke. But they're a good partner. We've gotten their full collaboration and cooperation. As people may or may not know, the revenue model that GoGo operates is GoGo operated. It's not Delta, so they are a service provider to Delta. And the wireless technology that they enable is going to have far more reaching effects than simple Wi-Fi connectivity. One of the things that we are going to be launching on our aircraft early part of next year is a product that we've developed internally called wireless IFE. So the C-Series, or the A220 as it's now referred to, which is our newest product that we're going to be introducing to the market early part of next year. It's a narrow body, which I think will be an excellent product. Delta Flight Products developed a wireless IFE solution so that we don't have to actually wire the planes any longer. We just, in the seat back, put the tablet, the display panel, and whatnot. We pull the satellite technology to give you all the IFE, live TV that you choose. And one of the opportunities is not just the savings, because the savings are enormous. It costs over $1 million an airplane to equip the IFE systems on board those planes. This will cut that down by 2/3 of the cost. And also the reliability, when you have an outage on board, you can actually then isolate it to an individual seat, change the panel out, which will take a matter of a couple of minutes, and continue on with keeping the entire plane with the IFE systems they provide. So team's done a very nice job. Hats off to the GoGo people. They've really stepped up to the plate for us. Our customer satisfaction scores last year actually was negative when we measure Net Promoter Score. You think Wi-Fi would be hard to understand how that could get negative, but it was a negative attribute. This year it's a significant positive. And the thing we're going to get to Haven't figured out how yet. The thing we're going to get to is we're going to make it free.
You will make it free.
We're going to figure out how to do that.
Because Robert Isom ducked that question a little bit yesterday.
You'll have to ask him about it, but I know our customers want it, and I don't know any place in the world that you pay for Wi-Fi other than an airplane, and the answer is why. And then when we can make it free, I think you're going to see another step change function in terms of the connectivity between our customers and our airline.
So the basic answer that executives give me, with the exception of JetBlue, which is free, is it costs a fortune to outfit an airplane with Wi-Fi, much more than your hotel room or even this room. But you still think you can offer it for free?
That's our goal.
Okay. All right. So deep down, I'm an airline guy. I don't love talking about politics, but somehow in the last year, airlines and politics have mixed probably more than people expected. At some point in the last year, you took away the NRA's discount. I understand very few members were using it, but it was still nonetheless a very big deal. And you said in a note, our values are not for sale. Why'd you do that?
You know, well, there come times that, on social issues where companies need to be heard. Your customers expect you to speak. Your employees, your colleagues expect to know our views, and it's a fairly uncomfortable place. I don't think many corporate CEOs have grown up anticipating becoming politicians, and we're not good politicians, and I really do try to stay out of the social activism role and stay out of politics because I'm just trying to be the best airline CEO I can be. But it was when we saw the rhetoric that was going on around the NRA, particularly attached to the Parkland shooting, and we saw that we had a discount program for NRA members, we just tried to remove ourselves from the debate. We wanted to get off stage, not get on stage. Of course, by getting off stage, it put us on stage.
Right.
And then we got, because there were some tax matters in the state of Georgia that came into play, got us into the national headlines. But we're just trying to stay out of the political realm, stay off the social media websites, and run a great airline for our customers.
So as I recall, Georgia briefly added a fuel tax for you and then pulled it back. Is that right?
The lobbyist put a lot of pressure on the Georgia state representatives to eliminate a $40 million tax break that they had already approved for us to give us. And it wasn't just for Delta, it was for the state of Georgia, because the state of Georgia has one of the highest jet fuel tax rates in the country. And the governor was doing the right thing by trying to eliminate that to make it even more competitive with other states. And we got caught in the crossfire. Hats off to the governor of Georgia. He came back around last month and took the tax down himself. And I'm very pleased to see that.
So as a brand, when you take a stand like that, do you see either a book away, which is slightly fewer people booking, or maybe even a jump in bookings? Do you see any change?
Well, that wasn't part of the consideration set in terms of trying to gain customers, or it really wasn't a factor. But I can tell you that the overall response was significantly favorable to the stance we took. I think people respected our views, and even those that didn't agree with our views had an appreciation that we had to be heard on the topic. We weren't the only company that was in the dialogue. There were many others as well, but we had actually a financial cost to our decision that others didn't have to bear.
Okay.
And I will also tell you that the revenues at Delta this year will be the highest in our history, and our growth rate is one of the highest in the industry. So I'm not saying that has any cause and effect, but I don't think it's hurt us.
Great. All right, since you just said that, let me ask you what I like to call the Doug Parker question, because he says it all the time. Doug Parker is, of course, the CEO of American. He says American, and really the industry in general, may never lose money again. This is a much stronger industry than it ever was. You'll have good years and bad years, but no horrible years. Do you agree with that?
Well, you have to ask Doug. I'm not going to comment on American or Doug. He's got his own views on that. But I do think we're in a very different structural condition than ever before. Our debt levels are at their lowest in their history. We've got our investment grade rating back. We have the strength and the durability because we've used this period of time to invest in product and service and reliability in our people to create a durability with our customer base that we've never seen. Our Net Promoter Scores are the highest we've ever held. We'll carry 200 million customers this year, so the demand is quite strong. And we're an industry that's vulnerable to volatility, but I do believe we will get through any type of significant, issue thrown our way. You're never going to hear me say that we've solved all the industry's woes.
Yep.
But I feel very, very good about our financial condition.
Okay. It's been a great 5 years or so, which is about as long as I've been covering it. I'm curious, do you think anyone is going to come in and disrupt this industry, particularly in North America? Could it be David Neeleman with his new proposed airline, or maybe Amazon or Facebook, or what makes it worry?
To be an airline executive, you have to be born paranoid, because we're used to being beaten around the head or the ears by different things that are outside of our control. And one of the things at Delta we've been very keen on over the last 10 years of our journey to get to where we are at the top of our industry is trying to control those things that typically were not in our control, whether it's oil prices, and now we own a refinery that helps manage that, or taking our debt loads down to be more fiscally responsible, or investing in international partners the way we have to build a true global product and an opportunity to be the best airline, not just in the US, but in the globe, and creating the pathways for that. So as a result of that, when you think about the opportunities that we have, and you think about where we're going towards the future, there's a confidence, and there's a strength, and there's an investment that we continue to pour back into product over and over again in people, and I think that's underlying that resiliency. We're no longer competing as an industry on market share just for the sake of market share. We're competing for smart market share. We're competing from positions of strength rather than vulnerability. We're not competing for the long term rather than trying to figure out how we're going to pay our bills, for the current quarter. And it's a very, very different industry. Okay.
So times are good, and I know your fuel bill is up considerably. But in the last 3 weeks, there's been some news in the airline industry. Everyone, Delta included, raised the fee for the first check bag to $30. Why'd you do it? You know that a lot of people think that the industry is nickel and diming them, and folks get really upset over the bag fee.
Well, bag fees are one form of pricing, and I won't speak to pricing, as you can appreciate. Want to be anticipating forward-looking items from a pricing standpoint, but it's one component. If you look at overall pricing, including fees in our industry, not just at Delta, but in our industry, over the last 10 years, in real dollars, they're flat. Yet you think about the massive improvements we've made in the industry in terms of the reliability, the quality of service over the last 10 years. It's been phenomenal. If you go back even further, you go back to 1990, overall fees and pricing is down 40%, 40, in real dollars. So I think air travel continues to be one of the greatest bargains in the world today. It's with carrying 200 million people this year. We've democratized travel, and we've created opportunity. I call Delta more and more a lifestyle brand. We're out in the consumer, helping consumers and helping business travelers and helping people make life work. And whether it's bag fees or whether it's a pricing change, you got to figure out how to get your costs paid. At Delta this year, we're going to generate a profit of $5 billion, which, by the way, is where we ought to be, in terms of earning a proper return for our owners. Despite the $2 billion headwind and higher fuel prices, we're still going to generate a $5 billion profit, which is kind of flat year on year. So I'm pretty comfortable with that.
Okay. I know that this is not a Wall Street conference, but those are huge profits, and you guys complain all the time that Wall Street doesn't respect you in the same way that they respect other high-quality industrial companies. Are they coming around at all, or they're still skeptical?
I think our stock continues, and it's not just Delta. I think the airline industry continues to get more and more credit for the work we're doing. At Delta, our market cap today is $40 billion, so that's how much we're worth. And if you look at over, say, the last 8 or 9 years, we're up 6, 7x. And so I think it depends on your horizon. We've had significant improvement in overall growth and investment in our industry. Our largest owner today is a fellow by the name of Mr. Buffett. We're one of his top 10 holdings for himself. So I think we're continuing to get the credit we deserve, but there's more to go. There's no question about that.
All right. Should we see if the audience has more difficult questions than I had?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so let's start with the first one. This one did come up yesterday. Joanna Garrity mentioned it here on stage. JetBlue said that they were having some difficulty getting prime gates or any good gates in Atlanta. So the question is, why are you actively blocking JetBlue from Atlanta? Why not compete with service and product?
I didn't realize we're that powerful. We can actively block anybody within any airport. That's certainly not true, and you know that's not true. The JetBlue, as well as any of us, have to work with the local airport authorities to get our gates and our boarding times and our slot times, and it's part of the overall coming into a market. You have to build your presence and create opportunities. So, it's really up for them to work with the Atlanta airport authorities, not with Delta.
Okay, and sometimes in the beginning you have to run what they call a split operation, and that's just how you deal with it, right? All right, let's go. These are voted on, so the one on the top is the one that more people want me to ask. Why do priority bag tags never come out first at baggage claim?
Well, they're supposed to, right? I travel on us all the time, and I traveled up here, and mostly I'm actually traveling in coach.
Yeah.
And I'm down there at the luggage counter. In fact, last night when I flew into LaGuardia, I was flying with the woman in my life, and her bag was actually thrown over on the side. It was kind of in the baggage area, whatnot, kind of ran off the rails. I had to climb up there and go pull it out myself, even though it had priority tags on it. So, we do a great job at Delta. Our baggage team is the best. I think our mishandled rate, we never lose bags. We just misplace them from time to time, and we
sometimes for a long time.
We always locate them. Our mishandled rate is 1 in 1,000, which is phenomenal. And with RFID technology and the ability to track it on the Delta app is incredible. And we're always trying to get those priority tags out first, but we want to get all bags out as quickly as possible. And occasionally, the other bags get out there. One of the other things is our bag counters obviously carry a number of flights, so some of the other bags you see may be from a different flight.
And I'll give you some credit here. To my knowledge, I think you're only one of 2 airlines that has a 20-minute bag guarantee.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what else they have for us. What other airlines do you look for inspiration on the passenger experience?
I wouldn't say inspiration. I take most of my inspiration from my own team, but we watch everyone in the customer experience. Technology, opportunities to innovate and learn. I certainly have an enormous respect for Southwest in terms of what they do. Very, very different business model, but it's very effective in its own right in terms of efficiency, and I think there's things that we look to learn from them. Certainly the international airlines have enormous customer appeal, certain their products, not the subsidized ones, but the ones that have to pay for it themselves and figure out how to make it work, and we learn from them. We learn from our partners that we work with. Aeromexico or Virgin, I'd say, is one of the airlines and companies and brands that I do draw real inspiration from. If you see our Sky Clubs, you see the influence of Virgin on the Delta products in our lounges, and working together on technology and the importance of brand, investing in a high quality brand and experience. There's a lot to be said for them.
Great. We're almost out of time, but perhaps you can give us a 30-second answer because it's an interesting question. Do you have an update, because we're in New York, on what's happening at LaGuardia?
Well, we're making good progress at LaGuardia. I know it's a long-term project. It will take several years before we're complete. But the Delta terminal, which we're rebuilding, the entire LaGuardia Airport, will start to come online within the next 18 months. Spring of 2020 is when that first concourse will open. It's called Concourse G. It's out being built. You can see it coming out of the ground right next to where the old parking lot was on the east side of the airport. And over the next several years, you'll have a complete new experience, which is incredible because the real estate here is so valuable to us, and the customer opportunities are great. I'm very excited with what I see going on, not just actually here at LaGuardia. When you see what's going on in LA, we're building a brand new airport and experience, or in Salt Lake City, or in Atlanta, or Seattle. Airport infrastructure is key to our ability to create the experiences for customers and the innovation for customers in the future. I think we've all done a very, very good job with improving the flying experience. More to go, but I think we've made great headway. The airport experience, not so much. So at Delta, we're in the midst of a $12 billion investment on Delta's balance sheet, by the way, in the customer experience from an airport perspective, and it'll take years to roll out, but I think you'll all see, as we look to the next decade of air travel, the airport experiences are going to be the focus and the priority in terms of improving the experience for everybody.
Great. Thank you very much,
Brian,
Ed.
thank you for having me.
Appreciate the time.
Appreciate it. Thank you all for flying Delta.